Tonight, somewhere in your kitchen, there's probably a carton of eggs, chicken eggs, maybe some chicken breast in the fridge too. You've eaten chicken so many times you don't even think about it anymore. It's just there. Every grocery store, every restaurant, every country you've ever visited. But here's a question you've probably never asked. Why chicken? Why not this other bird? One that grows up faster, gets sick less, and starts laying eggs while it's still basically a baby. That bird exists. It's called the quail. And for most of human history, it was right there next to the chicken, ready to take over the world's dinner plates. It didn't. Something stopped it. Most people assume the answer is simple. Maybe quail just taste worse. Maybe they're harder to keep. But that's not quite right. And once you see what actually happened, you'll never look at a chicken nugget the same way again. This is the story of how one bird accidentally won a war it didn't even know it was fighting. And by the end, you'll understand something bigger. Something about how the food on your plate was never really chosen. It was engineered. Let's start with the quail itself, because on paper, it sounds like the better deal. A quail chick can start laying eggs at around 6 to 8 weeks old. A chicken takes months longer, sometimes twice as long, before it produces anything. Imagine you're a farmer 100 years ago. You have two birds in front of you. One starts paying you back in weeks. The other makes you wait almost half a year. Which one do you choose? Obviously the quail. But here's the twist. Almost nobody did. So what killed the quail's advantage? Size. A single quail weighs about as much as a deck of cards. A chicken can weigh 10 times that. That means if you want the same amount of meat from quail that you'd get from one chicken, you don't raise one bird, you raise about 10 of them. 10 birds to feed, 10 birds to house, 10 birds to kill, pluck, and clean, just to fill one dinner plate that a single chicken could have filled alone. Suddenly, that head start doesn't look so impressive anymore. But here's what's fascinating. You'd think all that extra handling would at least be offset by quail eating less food overall, gram for gram, and people love repeating that quail are some miracle of feed efficiency. Turns out, when you actually compare quail to modern meat chickens, that advantage barely exists. Quail need roughly 3.5 pounds of feed to grow 1 pound of bird, which is almost identical to a standard laying hen. The bird that was supposed to be the efficient one isn't dramatically more efficient at all. It's basically tied, and that changes everything about this story because it means the real reason quail lost wasn't really about biology. It was about something else entirely. So what was it? Here's where you have to imagine you're standing in a barnyard in the 1920s in Delaware on a small farm belonging to a woman named Celia Steele. The story goes that she ordered 50 baby chicks for eggs, and the hatchery accidentally sent her 500. Instead of returning them, she raised every single one for meat and made an unexpected fortune doing it. Within a few years, she wasn't running 50 birds anymore. She was running 10,000. Farmers across the region watched what she did and copied it. That accident, that one shipping mistake, helped light the fuse on an entirely new industry, the meat chicken industry, built specifically around raising chickens fast, cheap, and at massive scale. And it might be the strangest part of all. 20 years later, in 1948, a major American grocery chain ran a nationwide contest. They called it the Chicken of Tomorrow. Farmers and breeders from across the country entered their best birds into a competition, hatched and raised side by side under identical conditions, then judged on how much meat they produced and how fast they grew. It was basically an arms race in public with a cash prize. The winning bloodline became the ancestor of the birds you eat today. Big breasts, fast growth, bred quite literally to become food as efficiently as possible. But that's only half the story. Once chicken had a winning formula, it also had something quail never got: investment. Entire companies formed just to control chicken from egg to hatchery to feed mill to slaughterhouse, all under one roof. Genetics labs spent decades fine-tuning chicken breeds for exactly two jobs: laying eggs or growing meat, splitting the bird's whole evolutionary path in two. Meanwhile, the quail industry stayed small, scattered, and mostly ignored, propped up by hobby farmers and niche markets instead of research budgets and national contests. Nobody threw 75 years of genetic engineering at the quail, so while chicken kept getting bigger, faster growing, and cheaper to produce every single decade, the quail you can buy today isn't dramatically different from the quail your great-grandparents could have raised. Think about what that means. It's not that quail lost some natural competition based on which bird was actually better to raise. It's that one bird got chosen early, almost by accident, and then humans spent a century pouring resources into making that choice look inevitable. The chicken didn't win because it was destined to. It won because a housewife's shipping error turned into an industry, and that industry turned into infrastructure, and infrastructure is nearly impossible for anything else to catch up to, no matter how good the alternative might be. And here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. This is where the story stops being about quail and starts being about you, because the exact same pattern that decided what bird sits on your dinner plate is deciding things in your life right now, today, in ways you've probably never noticed. Think Think about the operating system on your phone. Think about the layout of your keyboard, the one you're probably typing on constantly, which was never actually designed to be the fastest way to type. It was designed to slow typists down on old mechanical typewriters so the keys wouldn't jam. That flaw became the standard. Everyone learned it. Every keyboard since has copied it, not because it's better, because it got there first, and by the time something better came along, there was already too much infrastructure built on top of the flawed choice to switch. That's what happened to the Quail, and it's happening around you constantly in ways so ordinary you'd never think to question them. The road system your city was built around, the video format your streaming service uses, the software your workplace runs on that everyone complains about, that nobody replaces, because switching would mean rebuilding everything from scratch. You assume the things surrounding your life were chosen because they were the best option. Most of the time, they were just the first workable option that got enough momentum before anything better could compete. So, what does that mean for the choices you're making right now, the ones you think are fully your own? The job you're in, the neighborhood you live in, even the habits you've built your identity around. How many of them are the objectively best options, and how many are just the first thing that showed up, got a head start, and then became too deeply wired into your life to easily undo? You like to think you evaluate your options and choose the best one, but evaluation takes energy, and once something is already working well enough, most people and most systems stop looking for something better. The Quail was never given a fair shot, not because it lost a contest, but because the contest ended the moment chicken got a 20-year head start and nobody thought to reopen it. Here's one more layer because it goes even deeper than infrastructure. It's about how species themselves get shaped by human attention. The domestic chicken today barely resembles its wild ancestor, a shy jungle bird from the forests of Southeast Asia. Decades of selective breeding for meat and eggs bent its entire body plan, giving it an oversized breast, a shortened lifespan to slaughter weight, legs that sometimes can barely support the mass humans bred onto its frame. Humans didn't just pick a winning bird, they physically remade it, generation after generation, into whatever shape served the industry best. The Quail, left mostly alone, still looks and behaves close to how it always has. One species got sculpted by relentless human attention, the other stayed almost frozen in time, simply because nobody decided it was worth the investment. And that's the uncomfortable mirror this whole story holds up. The things that get chosen early, whether it's a bird, a habit, a belief you picked up before you knew any better, don't just sit there passively waiting to be replaced later if something better comes along. They get reinforced, they get built into systems around them, they start shaping the very standards used to judge whether anything else could possibly be better. Ask most people why chicken is the default meat on Earth, and they'll tell you it's obviously the best choice. It isn't obvious at all. It's just what won early before the real competition even had a chance to start. So next time you're holding a piece of chicken or scrolling on that same keyboard layout or following a routine you've never actually questioned, ask yourself the same question this story keeps circling back to. Did you choose this because it's genuinely the best option available, or did it just get there first, and everything since has been quietly built to make sure it stayed? The Quail never lost because it was worse. It lost because nobody gave it the chance to prove otherwise. And somewhere in your own life right now, there's probably a Quail of your own, a better option, sitting overlooked, simply because the first thing that showed up got there before you thought to look for anything else.